Here's what surprised me about my first year in Mexico. Hi there, everyone. I'm Jeff, and this is Plain English, where we use stories to help you upgrade your English. Typically, the stories are about current events and trending topics, but today I'll make an exception and make the story about myself. Just over a year ago, I quit my job, sold my stuff, and moved to Mexico. And there are some obvious differences between life in the US and life in Mexico. The weather is better here, the food is spicier, they speak Spanish. But in today's story, I'll tell you about what surprised me about day-to-day life here compared to life in the US. This is lesson number 613, so that means JR has uploaded the full lesson content to plainenglish.com/613. In the second half of the lesson, I'll show you how to use a great English expression on hand, and we have a song of the week. Let's get going. The first thing people ask when you move to a new country is how you like the food. So let's start there. I do like Mexican food, and Mexico City has a wide variety of ethnicities and styles to choose from. But I mainly cook my own meals. So let's talk about food at home. Some food is better and some is worse. According to my personal taste test, fresh chicken breast and fresh eggs are far better in Mexico than they are in the US. They just taste better. An egg here just has more flavor than an egg in America. I don't know what it is. On the flip side, beef is worse here. A burger is not hard to make, so why can't I find a good one in Mexico? In America, you can go to the grocery store and buy refrigerated orange juice. There are no other ingredients, just orange juice, nothing added. You can keep a half gallon in your refrigerator and have it on hand for whenever you want it. It's not as good as fresh squeezed orange juice, but in the average place in America, you can't get fresh squeezed juice unless you're at a fancy restaurant. In Mexico, by contrast, you can't get a half gallon of fresh orange juice in the grocery store, but at least in my neighborhood, I can walk downstairs and watch someone squeeze the oranges into a to-go cup. That tastes far better than anything you can get in an American store, but I have to go out and get it. There are some things back home that seem so natural, like the air we breathe, that I had no idea it could be different anywhere else. Take the mail. I've gotten something in the mail every day of my life since I was a teenager. Most of it is junk, but there are, surprisingly, a lot of legitimate things that still happen via postal mail in America. Not here. I have received exactly one thing via the post office here in Mexico, and that one thing came from a friend in America. Notifications and such all arrive digitally, Bills for electricity and gas are hand delivered. It's just not part of the culture to get catalogs, magazines, and advertisements in the mail, and that's something I could never have imagined. I can't say I miss it either. Americans buy a lot of stuff, and they buy it in bulk. Mexicans tend to buy in smaller quantities. In America, you can buy eggs by the dozen, or sometimes in packs of 6 or 18. In Mexico, you can buy one egg if you want to, but you can also buy a huge sheet of like 48 eggs to make for your family. In many ways, banking is better here. Bank-to-bank transfers are a great example. Here, they are instant. I can send money to anyone through my bank app, and the other person gets the transfer immediately, no matter what bank they have. Not so in the US. Unless your bank is part of a small network called Zelle, you have to use third-party apps or wait up to 5 days to send a bank transfer. There's also something here called an ATM withdrawal without a card. You can generate a QR code on your bank's app, save it for yourself, or send that code to a friend, and that QR code can be used to withdraw a specific amount from your account, all without a card. This is a simple and safe way to send cash to another person in Mexico, and that other person doesn't even need a bank account of their own. There's also a greater focus on security with bank accounts here. My debit card doesn't have a number on it, for example. If I want to buy something online, I can generate a specific number on the app, and that is a one-time use number, so it can't be stolen and reused. Now let's talk about culture. The going out culture is different in Mexico. In the US, and certainly in Europe, it's common for people to pack into bars, mix and mingle, talk to the bartender, walk around, meet people, talk to strangers. Not so here. At most places in Mexico, you go with a group, you all sit down at a table, and you don't move until it's time to leave. Obviously, not 100% of places are like this, but the majority are. And that's a major difference between Mexico and, say, the US or Europe. Americans tend to be punctual, and we like to make plans. It's more true for me, even, than for the average American. And that is a major adjustment here, where people don't like to make fixed plans, don't like to think ahead as much, and how shall I say this? Aren't as committed to arriving on time. Now, there are pros and cons to each approach, but that has been an adjustment for me. Customer service is better in Mexico. At businesses large and small, it's common to talk to a single customer service representative on WhatsApp and to continue the conversation in WhatsApp until your issue is resolved. This is amazing. American companies do everything they can to keep you off the phone. And if you ever contact a human, you'll never get a number to text that person back. I far prefer Mexico when it comes to customer service. People are friendlier here, especially with strangers. It's common to say buen provecho to the tables you pass as you leave a restaurant. You always greet people in the elevators, in building lobbies, and on the streets, and that's far friendlier than back home. In my first few months here, I didn't let myself miss anything. I was like, I'm here. This is new. This is exciting. I'm not looking back. But now that I've been here a year, I'm allowing myself to miss certain things about the US. Maybe in the future, we can do a story about what I miss and what I don't miss. Anyway, if you're on the fence about moving to another country, another culture, I say do it. It's a great experience. It's enriching. You learn about a new culture, but also your own self and your own culture by having that experience. JR's song of the week is Margaritaville by Jimmy Buffett. Jimmy Buffett died last month at age 76, and his song Margaritaville was like the anthem for the tropical lifestyle of taking it easy and relaxing with a drink. Some of the lyrics go like this. I don't know the reason I stayed here all season with nothing to show but that brand new tattoo. The song came out in 1977 and was such a success that the name Margaritaville has been given to a whole line of commercial products, including a restaurant chain, a brand of tequila, beach furniture, key lime pie mix, even bicycles. There's a retirement community, a place to live in Florida called Latitude Margaritaville, named for this song. This was Jimmy Buffett's most famous song by far. Margaritaville is the song of the week. Thank you, JR. I'm guessing that everyone who lives at the Margarita housing development always has some tequila and lime juice on hand, and now you'll learn what on hand means. When you have something on hand, that thing is available and it's close. You can get to it easily. In today's main story, we were talking about some differences I've noticed in my first year in Mexico. Differences between daily life in the US and daily life here. And I gave the example of orange juice. If you open the average refrigerator in the average home in America, you will probably find orange juice in a cardboard or plastic container. Most people have some orange juice on hand. They have it available. There's some in the refrigerator. They don't have to go anywhere to get it. They have enough to pour a small glass if they're thirsty. But here's the thing. That juice was squeezed far away. It was then put on a truck and shipped to the grocery store where it sat in the refrigerated section for a few days. So it's fresh orange juice in the sense that it's not frozen and it doesn't have added ingredients, but it's not like someone squeezed it that morning. In Mexico, though, it's not common to buy orange juice in a grocery store like that. So most Mexican households won't have fresh orange juice on hand. But the good news about being here is that you can go outside to a juice stand on the street, and there are lots of them, and someone will squeeze you some fresh orange juice. But you don't have it on hand. You don't have it readily accessible in the house. Oh, speaking of the differences between the US and Mexico, here you can't drink the water out of the tap, so I get large jugs of water. Well, I always have an extra sealed jug on hand. The reason is the big jug doesn't always run out at convenient times. In my first few months, I'd be pouring a glass of water to take with me to my bedroom at night, and that's when it would run out. Or I'd be in the middle of cooking a meal and I'd need water to make rice, and that's when it would run out. So I quickly learned my lesson. I needed to have an extra jug of water on hand. I need to have some extra bottled water available and accessible in my house for when I need it. If someone gets hurt in your house, are you prepared? It's always a good idea to have a first aid kit on hand. Or maybe you don't have a kit, but you have the supplies on hand. You have bandages, disinfectant, painkillers, antibiotic ointment, cotton balls, whatever. You have enough to handle a small injury at home, and you have it in a way you can access it. It's on hand. Do you have overnight guests a lot? I don't, but some people have parties, visitors, friends, family, and sometimes people want to stay the night. If that's what your house is like, then you want to have some extra sheets, towels, pillows, and blankets on hand. You want to have those things available so that your guest can feel comfortable. If you live in an area that loses power a lot, you might want to have some flashlights, batteries, and supplies on hand. There's nothing worse than losing power at night and having no way to see. These days, you might also want to have a spare phone battery on hand or a portable charger on hand in case you need an emergency charge. There might be someone at your office that's in charge of keeping office supplies on hand. That person will make sure there are pads of paper, pens, notebooks, things like that. You want those things on hand at the office. If your car breaks down, you might need a spare part. Your mechanic will have some of the most common parts on hand so he can fix your car without making a special order. I always have several books on hand in case I finish a book and find myself in need of some reading material. Well, that's all for today's Plain English. The full transcript of today's lesson is available at plainenglish.com/613. Thank you for indulging me on a more personal story today. Next week, we'll have another current events story. See you then.